Hello, this is Natasha and
The Fugitive. And this is our first weekly program. We're going to have a weekly program here where we discuss things from the view of Russia and the fugitive. Every week, we're going to discuss things that are happening in Russia. So foreigners get to know what's happening in Russia because we get a lot of questions like, what's going on in Russia, but not reported by the West. So we're going to report to you directly from within Russia so that you can see the kinds of things that are happening here and the Russian views on topics and things like that. And we have, of course, an actual Russian and then, a fugitive in Russia. And we're going to give you a varied viewpoints. We're not going to fight, but we have concurrent viewpoints on certain things. And we'll have different topics. We'll have global news and Russian news, odd news of the week. And then, of course, drop your questions and comments in, and we will build off of that as we go moving forward in the future. So we're going to start off first with Putin, Trump, Alaska Palooza, right?
yeah, the main news of the week. Actually, we're recording this on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So when this video is going to be released, Trump and Putin are going to meet definitely.
They're going to have their political orgy. So, it would be really cool if they would just broadcast it. We could watch it like the political Super Bowl. We could sit and comment on it sportscaster.
And shout, Putin, go! I bet $100 he's going to beat him right
100
now.
100 rubles. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to meet, and then we're just going to get the news afterwards. So what do we think is going to happen? I don't think a whole lot's going to happen. We can talk about what Trump said is going to happen. He said he's going to tell Putin to end the war. Think that's going to go well?
I think it's actually a huge mistake. And there was some misunderstanding between Witko. And I don't know, somebody translated to him something wrong, and then they decided that we're going to meet, but right now you can cancel it.
Well, Witkoff didn't bring his own translator. He relies on the foreign countries, which is very unusual. Normally when you go to another country, you bring your own translator. But he always relies on, Russian government translator, which is kind of odd. And of course, Witkoff is not a diplomat, he's a real estate developer, investor. So there were definitely some mix-ups there. I think it's a good step though, because even if nothing happens, you have to keep the lines of communications open. That was one of the things that Reagan always said with Gorbachev.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like, listen, we have to always talk. Even if there's no progress, you can't have any progress if you don't talk. So I think it is important. I think it is significant that they are meeting even on U.S. territory, not on a third-party territory. And maybe
that's debatable. That's debatable. Just everyone's going to run in comments and say, you see, I told you Russians want Alaska back.
Yeah, and Puerto Rico too.
No, better Hawaii. Give us Hawaii and take.
Yeah, we need something warm. I've been talking about this. We have Sochi, but the only really big issue with Russia is we don't really have any beachy places. I talked about this the other day. The only thing is I don't want to give the Kremlin any new ideas. But the U.S. stole Hawaii to begin with, so it's still a land.
Here we're discussing Russia. Okay, so let's
read some of the things that Trump has said. First of all, Trump said this is going to be a listening session, right? But then he goes on to say that I'm going to tell Putin to stop this war. There will be some land exchange.
What is he gonna?
Yeah, but what's going to exchange? What does Ukraine doesn't have anything to give back? If you're going to exchange something, they're not in Kursk anymore. I don't understand what the exchange is.
Maybe Trump wants to exchange Alaska for Crimea. Take Crimea, give us Alaska.
Well, I think that the Russians would rather keep Crimea than Alaska, but I don't know. The minerals there. Yeah.
Are there? I think.
Oh, yeah. No, it's full of oil and minerals and stuff.
Alaska.
Oh, yeah. It's gold and oil and all kinds of stuff.
I thought they emptied pretty much. Or...
No, because they signed, I forget which administration, they blocked oil drilling for a while. And then Trump, I think, was when they're opening back up. It's still full of oil. And gold. They declared as a reserve, and then they're like, oh, wait, we actually need some oil. So that's kind of how it went down. Then he said, I will put both Putin and Zelensky in the same room with me or without me, and I think they'll resolve the issue.
And then they didn't invite Zelensky.
Yeah. And then Zelensky invited himself.
Amazing.
Since then, Zelensky was, I think, in Berlin and talking to the Canadian Prime Minister, and he said he's going to show up in Alaska, but talk to Trump afterward. I don't know. Whatever you think about Zelensky, in my opinion, Zelensky has changed quite a bit. It's whatever I thought about him at the beginning of this war, he's turned into a total clown.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't matter which side of the war you're on, he has become a total show clown.
Yeah, I can agree on that. Unfortunately, I had this illusion about him, like a strong person that actually protects his own country. That makes sense. His country was invaded, but eventually he turned out into another dictator, actually.
Yeah.
In reality, what's happening. And I know that I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. But this is basically what's happening. The borders are closed. Nobody can escape the country. Media is all state media. You can't say anything about him, which you can. Yeah, people say that it makes sense because country's in war. But I don't know, if you claim that you're fighting for democracy, for like freedom and all this kind of stuff, that doesn't make sense for me at all. At least he needs to hold an election.
Yeah, they keep saying I can't because of the Constitution, but when they overthrew, I always confuse the two guys with the P's. Poroshenko, Putin, when they overthrew the guy, they didn't follow the Constitution to do that because they had to go through the court. Then they skipped that step. So it's like they're willing to violate the Constitution when it's convenient to them. And then they're like, well, we can't have it during a war. But they had it even after 2014. They had it when there were territories that were occupied according to them. And they didn't care if those people voted whatsoever. The U.S. voted during Civil War when votes had to travel by horse. So they can find a way to do it if they want. And they can find a way. I agree the Constitution of Ukraine does have a protection, but the Rada can find a creative way around this just like they have any other time.
If they wanted to, but
yes.
Yeah.
They can either find a creative way or they can suspend the declaration they have for like a week or something. They can do it if they want to. And he keeps talking about like, well, I can't give up Crimea because the Constitution doesn't. But this isn't how wars happen. Wars aren't like, sometimes you have to amend or, work on the Constitution. It's like, I'm sure that the Korean Constitution didn't allow North Korea to take North Korea. Yeah. The Cyprus Constitution didn't allow Turkey to take it, but these things happen. And you can't be just like, well, the Constitution won't allow me to end the war, so I'm going to fight to the very end until there's no Ukrainians left.
That's what brings you to the point that not Russia, neither Ukraine are actually ready for peace talks right now. That was my point, that I think they still believe that they still can fight more.
Well, there was a big breakthrough this week, too. I mean, they broke through the Ukrainian front lines, and even the Ukrainian Telegram channels are panicking over this. And the really bad part is, even as of yesterday, Deep State updated, we showed this, and I'll put the map on the screen, but they have like a 25-kilometer breakthrough, a massive breakthrough. And even Deep State, which is Ukrainian, okay, if it's not Ukrainian support, whatever, it's definitely Ukrainian biased, okay? And they're several days or weeks out of date. And even that map's been proven to be out of date. And the Ukrainian government's like, there's no breakthrough. There was a small, whatever, but they haven't broken through. And it's like, this is like watching the Iraqi foreign minister back in 2002 or whenever it was. The guy's on TV. He's on all the national network. He's like, there are no Americans in Baghdad. And you could see outside his window, there were American tanks streaming by. And he was just like, he had no clue the tanks were there, but he knew the Americans. It was like, there are no tanks in Baghdad. There are no Americans. And it was just, things were blowing up and tanks were, it was like, Ukraine, I mean, they're not even being truthful with their own people.
But actually, it's understandable. He can't say that he just, we are going to abandon Crimea. He's
I understand
the president of Ukraine.
But he thinks he's going to get it back. Way. But he's like, we're going to fight until we get it back. It's like, I always compare this to Cyprus. This conflict is so much like the Cyprus conflict.
I heard this rhetoric from one guy who is, what's his name? Oh God, he's Cypriot. He's in the EU parliament.
Yeah. Fidelis. They hate him.
About
they hate him. But it is a lot like it. But the difference is that the Cypriots and the Turks, now technically they're still at war.
Yeah.
But they trade a bit. The border's been open since 2004, 2005. And I forget how long they fought. It was a couple weeks or a couple months, the skirmish. But after a short time, they're like, neither of us is going to gain very much over this. So we still hate each other. We're still at war. Even 50 years later, they're still technically at war. But they stopped the fighting because they realized that continued fighting just meant losses for both sides.
Well, we're still at war with Japan.
Oh, yeah. I know about that. So
we never signed the peace treaty after World War II.
That's why Japan's not helping in Ukraine. So, yeah, and there's the Kuril Islands or there's some islands that are under dispute over there.
Few islands.
Yeah.
It's actually not under dispute, but it's under dispute in Japan. They still want them back, but yeah.
Russia doesn't dispute them, but
yeah, Japan.
Yeah, we need those fish.
It's not just fish, actually. It's more complicated. People live there. They have their cemeteries there. They want to visit their families. It's understandable. I actually understand them quite well.
Let's see what else Trump said. Russia is a warring country. That's what they do. They fight many wars. They defeated Hitler and Napoleon. I don't know. Is he comparing Zelensky to Hitler and Napoleon? Indirectly.
Trump saying a lot of stuff. I can't keep up with him. I don't know. Like, there's the thing, somebody is just telling him something and he just keeps repeating it.
It's like Trump GPT.
Yeah.
Or the time that you saw, he says that he said he was going to Russia to meet Putin. And then like 15 seconds later, he's like, oh, no, I meant Alaska.
So, yeah, I think
yes,
he just said,
no,
the meet in Russia.
No, and I don't remember if somebody questioned him, but he corrected himself within like a minute or something.
Oh, yeah, then it was just a mistake.
Yeah. No. Here's a big one. He says the next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky, Putin, and me. I want to arrange a meeting between the two leaders. You know, the thing is, for a long time, Zelensky refused to meet Putin. And then it reversed the other way. And then Putin was like, I'm not meeting with Zelensky.
Because he doesn't consider him as a legitimate leader, actually. Yeah. But eventually they are going to meet anyway, because the war will end one day.
I will allow for the normalization of trade relations between Russia and the USA.
Which trade relations? We don't trade anything much, like uranium, maybe.
Yeah, uranium, they still buy that because they need that.
Yeah.
They need that. But you're right, there isn't necessarily a lot of trade. And I don't know, a lot of these Western companies think they're just going to like storm back in here, but most people here don't want the Western companies back in most cases.
I think we want them. Come on. We love the American burgers here.
They have so much better burgers now.
Actually, they were better even.
I'm not talking about fast food. No, we have local places that serve good burgers now.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some really good burger places. I mean, when I was here in the early 2000s, you could not get a burger in Russia to save your life. There was like one pub in all of St. Petersburg that had, but now there's quite a few places you can get a good burger here. I mean, there's one place they go and when you order it, they grind the burger up as you order it.
Yeah, Franklin's Burgers do this.
Oh, okay.
It's a huge net, and it's quite cheap, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Cheaper than McDonald's. But they're cheap burgers cheaper than McDonald's here, which is fascinating. And it's real cooking.
I'm just saying that Russians aren't like, oh, we're dying without all these Western companies. And these Western companies that think they're just going to pop back in here. Russian companies have replaced them. And in many cases, replaced them with better service, better products. And even Putin is like, if you pulled out, you're going to have to pay to get back in.
It's actually more complicated than that, honestly speaking. Like if we talk about these production companies, I mean, these companies that sell clothes or whatever, okay, like they replaced it. But there are a lot of things like microchips. We need it in the US,
Those aren't coming from the US anyways. Those are coming from Taiwan.
It doesn't matter. I mean, they make it, of course, in China or, I don't know, Cambodia, whatever, Thailand, whatever. But it's American companies still. We need to have
the IT is, yes. But this is going to be changing very quickly, too, because the way that China's been bullied by America, China has made it their moonshot to become a leader in chip development. And they're still a ways away from it. But in about 5-10 years maximum, China is going to be on par with the West with chips and maybe even exceed them. And that's going to be a complete shift in this whole thing because the US has used their IP and chips to bully countries. And when you bully big places like China, they realize this is our national security. They are spending basically the equivalent of what the Americans spent to go to the moon is what the Chinese are spending to catch up on chip technology. And they're going to get there.
I think so too. I think it was a very wrong decision for the US to bully China, really.
And Russia, a lot of people don't know, but there are certain specifics of the chip manufacturing technology, especially around lithography, that Russia holds certain high-tech technology on that even the West doesn't have.
We do.
The problem is it hasn't been applied into a production, but it's proven there. And China's working with Russia on those specific areas.
We don't have production capacities. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, neither does Russia right now.
Right now, we don't have investments, we don't have enough money to maximize it throughout the country. But if Americans are going to come with money, American investors.
But they're not going to bring the chips. It's all going to come through China. That's going to happen.
No, I mean, I'm talking about money. Let them bring money here, invest. If it will be allowed when the war is going to be over, then welcome. Americans
they did pass a law recently allowing foreigners to invest in the Russian stock market.
Through Moscow exchange. How is it happening?
I don't know, but for a while there was a restriction. In a lot of countries, you can't own stock if you're a foreigner, and it was that way here. But I read recently there's a law that, and maybe not all cases, but they're allowing some foreign investment into the Russian stock market now.
I'm just wondering, how is it technically possible? Like, you know, all the stuff with money right now, you can't go and buy rubles abroad.
But as it is right now, if I live in Russia and I'm not a citizen, I can't own stocks generally. Yeah. So it could be for residents here. There, you know, it could be people that already have the money here, but they're just opening up and allowing, you know, foreigners in general.
I feel it's not this amount of money that actually, if you open the market for American investors, that's what we're lacking of. And that's what Nabiulina was talking about. That so we don't have this investment capacity right now. You know, we spend all the money. So right now, don't wait for money from us, from the state. Search from yourself.
Well, Russia still has one of the lowest debt to GDP ratios in the world. It's actually quite enviable.
Listen, it's an economical thing, I think.
It is, but the economic situation, I mean, it's not optimal here, but some of the bigger indicators are actually quite good here. So if this whole situation hopefully gets wrapped up soon, then the Russian economy is poised to do quite well. If the situation wraps up.
Yeah, which is, I have huge doubts, honestly, about this meeting and changes.
I mean, but I think it's going to wrap up more or less, whether it gets frozen or not, in the next year or so.
So your prediction is next year. Write this down, guys.
I'm not saying I'm saying that's my current kind of feeling. I'm not 100% firm on it. I wouldn't put like tons of money on it, but my general feeling is that it should wrap up in the next year or so.
I won't build my predictions because I thought it's going to end actually earlier.
Well, yeah, when it first started, I thought it was going to end in about 6 months, and I was completely wrong on that. I've been right on most of my predictions regarding the war. I was completely wrong on that one. And I'm even saying this one, I'm not completely firm on it, but I think it just seems like it's leaning towards, you know, it might, I mean, there might not be a treaty. It might, I've always said that it's probably likely to end like Cyprus, where the two sides, like, there was no treaty.
What makes you think this way? Like, it's just a feeling, it's another thing. But
it's because of the progress. Russia's achieving most of what it wants in land territory, and just the cost to both sides. They're still progressing. They have most of the Donetsk, most of Luhansk.
Still, but in their, like, Putin led other oblasts join, like Zaporozhye, right? He wants Kherson. He wants. It's huge, vast lands, and they're not reaching.
At some point, he may adjust and say, "Okay, getting to the Dnieper is enough," because crossing the Dnieper and getting that, I'm just saying that he could adjust it again.
So the goals of special military operations are shifting.
It could. But this is how wars end. Wars always end with both sides making some compromises. They could just redefine Zaporizhia to only go to the Dnieper, because that's a natural barrier. It may not be worth the cost to cross it and try and hold land across the territory, is what I'm saying from a tactical standpoint.
If that's actually his goal, we're going to see, I guess.
Let's see what else he said. So trade. Oh, this is a big one. And this is an American poll, actually. 88% of Ukrainians now are willing to negotiate for peace, which is a huge change from last year. Because last year, they're still screaming, Crimea was always Ukrainian, which is the most absurd claim. You can say what you want about their territories, but Crimea. And this is so hard to explain to Americans, but it's like, I don't want to get into it.
It's impossible for Crimea, but because it's actually since 2014, it is Russian, actually, and people are already Russian there.
They were Russian before. Even prior to 2014, the majority of the people is like 90% spoke Russian as their primary language.
Yeah, it's complicated. There were no real referendum there, actually, to know what people think. Actually,
but there were polls done before even 2014.
Yeah, they were so.
And the general thing is they either wanted to be independent or part of Russia. They didn't want to be part of Ukraine. That was clear.
Oh, I think they didn't want all this mess.
Oh, of course they don't want
to leave. You know,
of course they just want to live. But it was saying if they had a choice, they had made it clear that they did not want to be part of Ukraine. They didn't feel like they were part of Ukraine. But anyway, so basically,
speak for Ukrainians. I think it's up to them. But
Crimeans didn't consider themselves Ukrainian. That was the whole point. It was like only like 6% spoke Ukrainian.
You know, I still think like there are like territories of countries. There are laws, you know, and this territory was Ukrainian. So it's a very complicated topic, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And taking Crimea, of course, created the precedent that is dangerous, quite dangerous. I agree that, people were actually so much pro-Russian. Like I had a lot of friends who were working there like who were serving there. They were Ukrainians, but serving in the Russian Navy. And eventually they moved to Russia. Of course, they feel more Russian than Ukrainian. But from the legal point of view, it's very complicated. You create a very dangerous precedent. Like, I'm grabbing the territory, so it's mine. So...
Yeah. I'm not trying to justify one of there. I'm just saying, but it was clear that the people there didn't want to be part of Ukraine. A lot of people don't realize that the Eastern territories were not well funded. They were like, for Americans, it was like the West Virginia of Ukraine. They didn't get the money. They didn't get a lot of things. And, they felt very different, but especially Crimea.
Ukraine genuinely had huge problems with the economy, actually, because they didn't go through this privatization as Russia. They had economic problems. They actually had great reforms in terms of politics. They actually had elections. That's true. I mean, they were going to democratizing the society, but economically, it didn't go well after the 90s, unfortunately for them.
Well, I think it's a big shift. They now want to negotiate a settlement, which is what I've been saying for a long time. The sooner, whether or not they're happy with it, the main point is we have to stop the dying on both sides, and
That's
can't
the
do
most
that.
important. Yeah, right now, actually, I don't care about territories. I don't care about anything. The most important, I want people stop dying.
Yeah, on both sides.
From both sides. That's the problem. It divides our families. This is the craziest thing, Like, I have a family in Kyiv, and like we talk to each other, and it's just crazy, like how the world. Like my aunt, she died recently, and I can't even visit her in Kyiv. I can't go to her grave right now because of what's going on. And it's the same from Ukraine. A lot of people can't just go to their relatives here right now and visit them.
I don't think people in the West understand how close economics and families are between Ukraine and Russia and how it was before the war. I mean, it was like
right now it's divided.
It was for Americans. I mean, it was closer than even Canada was to the U.S. It was. There's really no way for me to explain it for Americans. It was extremely close. People went back and forth. It was obviously they were different countries, but they were heavily integrated at just so many levels.
Not like Belarus. Belarus is completely like Russia.
Yeah, Belarus is different like Puerto Rico to the Americans.
It's so much like Russia. I mean, they even speak Russian, but we were so much connected. Like, if you walk here in the streets, if you meet Russians, any of them have relatives in the
Oh yeah, everybody. It's like,
fine.
I mean, pretty much everybody has Ukrainian blood one way or the other. Plus, we have so many Ukrainian refugees here.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people, and I've made many videos about this, but Russia has more Ukrainian refugees than any other country.
I mean, we can't say about this because actually there's no real statistics about that. But there are a lot of them. That's true. Like,
but even by Western estimates, there are more Ukrainian refugees in Russia than any other country.
I would debate that, honestly, because right now, millions of them run to Europe and...
I'm saying maybe not Europe as a whole, but any other country. I think Germany's number 2.
Yeah, maybe, but if you take...
If you take all of Europe, I think Europe has more.
Way more than Russia, of course. It's hard to count for local MVD because many of them actually moved here and got passports. When they were, running away from the war, they just went in Rostov-on-Don and got a lot of passports. Right now, it's very hard to count how many refugees or how many actually...
But I guess my point there is a lot of Westerners think that everybody in Ukraine went to the West, and they didn't. And it wasn't like they were kidnapped. They chose to come here.
Yeah. They moved because they have family here. They speak Russian language. They can find a job. Many of them, like it's usual people from usual villages or, cities, and they don't speak any languages. How they're going to go? They have no connections to the West, but they have connections here. Of course, it's easier. People choose economically.
Okay, so next topic then. So let's talk about some regional and Russia-connected news. So this, the Russian opposition, you had a story on this.
Yeah, this week actually I'm a liberal myself, actually, and I'm an anti-war movement. I was from day one protesting war and everything, this. We are in different political, maybe, how to call it? Spectrums. But what's going on right now with Russian opposition that is non-systematic, we call it, right? Unsystematic, how do you call it in English? It's not official opposition, like in the country there's party and they can go for elections. It's a position that non-mainstream opposition, let's say here, unsystematic, it's not in the system. So it's Navalny team. It's team of Khodorkovsky who ran away. But they're different people that are basically financed by different groups. And what they do abroad right now is just crazy. Like, I've got so pissed off with them. Because I believe that opposition actually, yes, it must oppose the government, right? Oppose the leader of the country, because it must be an alternative. But what they do is basically they're taking money from someone else, right? From different groups of people or foreign funds.
Yeah, they're taking money from the West.
Isn't that?
And when the West funds these opposition groups, it's promoting democracy.
Yeah.
But if Russia promotes opposition groups in other countries, it's election interference.
The different things, yes, because we are autocracy. They are democratic countries. It's the problem not with this. Okay, let them get grants from the US. Let them be financed by UN. I don't know, whatever. The problem is opposition must actually fight for interests of Russians, right? That's why you're Russian opposition. But what's going on? They basically just leave Russians as they are abroad. They don't help them. So the problem is Russian FBK. It's Navalny's team, basically, that was left after his, after his death. They basically framed a lot of people, and these people are detained right now, and they get like years in prison for financing them. Because when Kremlin made them as an extremist organization, so it was illegal actually to fund them. It was illegal to send donations. It was, of course, it makes sense. I mean, by law, it's extremist organization. You can't finance this. You can't support them. You can't share this information, etc. But the problem is they say to people that it's safe to donate. And they made that contract with Stripe and like, go people, like support us with money. And a lot of people start to support because they believe it's safe. And what we figured out, it's not safe, and they knew about it, or they were so ignorant not to care about it. And of course, Russian FSB right now just tracking the number of this merchant ID in Stripe, and they know who exactly here financed FBK, which is Anti-Corruption Foundation in English. And it's a huge problem. Like, after it was revealed...
So they're lying to people. They're saying it's legal.
Yes.
Russian law to donate to them, but it's really not.
Because they can find, like, donate to us because FSB is not going to find you. It's like, it's safe. And right now, when people are getting detained, they don't say anything. Like, people ask, like, at least, message them, tell your followers that, do something, run away from Russia. I don't know, anything. Let them know. They must know that there are cases against them, but they don't do this even. They say, no, it's all fake. It's all, And that's like absolutely insane. I don't know.
It's dishonest. Whether or not you agree with their mission or not, what they're doing is dishonest, and they're entrapping people.
They are. And it's just so upsetting, actually, that it went this way. I'm so upset that there are no organizations that support Russians abroad. There are no organizations that actually, help these people who run away, escape the regime, run away to the abroad. There's nobody helping them. And it's just mind-blowing.
Criminalizing searches for extremist content.
Now, these are warnings for our pals who live here in Russia, guys.
If you come to Russia, do not go on the index and search how to overthrow Putin.
Or how to prepare.
Don't search it.
Prepare some evil stuff.
Yeah.
Just be careful. Actually, the law is not so clear. We don't know yet what will be considered really as extremist. I don't know. It can be anything. Just use VPN and be careful.
Well, the law actually does define it, but you're right. There's a fair amount of wiggle room.
Unfortunately, we're going to know, I think, when the first cases are going to pop up, we will know for sure what it means. But for right now, I would just advise to use VPN, actually, and not to search some illegal stuff. We don't advise to search for illegal stuff in Russia.
I mean, some Western countries have similar laws, but this one is a little more vague.
Yeah. So we just are warning you.
And here's a big one. They have classified the international Satanist movement as an extremist movement in Russia. Although they never existed here. I guess they're heading that possibility off.
And working.
Yeah.
Bureaucrats are working. It's
Wait,
very important.
We need to make sure the Satanists don't get a foothold here.
No Satanists in Russia.
New routes for stripping Russian citizenship. This is basically not for born citizens, but people who are naturalized. If they commit murder or acts of terror, they've expanded it to 17 offenses that they can revoke your citizenship if you murder somebody, or there's certain child offenses and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a new case, new thing actually, because I don't remember cases like that. But recently they start to drop your citizenship if you, I don't know how to say it. If you try to go into politics, right? Or go into some illegal stuff, let's say, I don't know.
well, so far, at least according to the list is pretty serious offenses.
Yeah. But this is new. That's
Yeah.
definitely new. That wasn't the case here before.
And then a lot of regions, the internet's getting shut down a lot, the mobile data, because the Ukrainian drones are using SIM cards. This is also why they've tightened up the SIM card laws here as well. Well, there's money laundering, some other things going on too. But yes, the drones are using SIM cards to navigate. And
not all of them.
Not all of them.
Honestly, I don't think that they shut down internet for this reason. I mean, I know how
it is in the areas where the drones are. That's where it's being shut down.
They're shut down, but I don't think, from what I know, at least from drone specialists, from guys who actually make drones here, there are different kinds of them. Like, yeah, some of them use mobile networks, they connect to mobile networks, right, and fly. But that's not the case anymore. Many of them programmed already from the very beginning. And this internet shutdown makes me actually wonder what they are trying to reach here. I guess.
Well, to be honest, though, where the internet shutdowns have been is where the drones have been flying. Remember, I was on quite a tour of Russia, and I was in 2 cities when drones hit, and the internet did get shut down on those times.
Here they fly. I mean, in St. Petersburg, we start to have interactions.
Well, we don't
of
get
internet.
very many of them here. It's very
but
infrequent
since
here.
or maybe you don't walk much in the streets. Actually, there are places when there's no internet at all. Like, I've experienced that. I couldn't connect at all in Nevsky, for example, in the center, They were shutting down, but they don't fly here, like in the middle. But I read that they fly around.
Well,
like
the
in
shutdowns here, though, have been, at least what I experienced, because during SPIF, it got shut down. But they brought in like anti-missile defenses because Putin was here. During SPIF, it got shut down.
Yeah, completely.
When I've experienced shutdowns here, I got hit last week because the Ukrainians have been attacking the largest internet provider in St. Petersburg. They did it last month.
Cyber attack?
Yeah, they did a DDoS attack.
I didn't see that, yeah.
And so I'm with one of the largest internet providers here. And so for basically 3 days, my home internet connection was unusable. And they've attacked MTS, they've attacked Beeline. So certain Ukrainian groups, they think if they can make life uncomfortable by taking down the internet, that Russians are going to like get up and revolt. If you read the Kiev Post and things, you would think that Russians are ready to riot in the streets against Putin because we lose internet, because they shut down the airports. Because, the airports, the last few months, the Moscow airport especially, has been crazy with the drones coming in. With people, they just shut down the airport. Plus, they hacked Aerofly. And if people here are irritated, but
they're angry at airports.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Ukrainian newspapers are carrying it like, oh, the Ukrainian hackers did such a success that tomorrow Putin will be gone because the Russians are ready to riot. And it's just, that's not it. That's not
they do this still. I think it was the point like the first year, but right now actually
they're still running these headlines.
Which they created.
I could show you headlines right now, especially the UK press is the worst, especially the Times. The Times every day runs something about this happened today and Putin is going to be out of power tomorrow. And the Kiev Post and the Kiev Independent will publish it from the Times. Every day. I can pull up something right now here if you want to see it.
Like I see usually that economics is collapsing. Like economics is collapsing. It's collapsing. It's collapsing for 3 years already and still didn't collapse. That's what I see.
Oh yeah, our economy has been collapsing here for. Let me try and find. Let me see one. Here is
Because from what I read, I saw different reactions. Like Ukrainians actually understood everything, that there's not going to be riot, and that's why they became so much angry. And that's why they started to spread so much hate speech.
Okay, this is from the Times right here. The FSB is running a purge to steal assets as the army fails in Ukraine. Now a desperate Putin may gamble on secret talks with Trump. In reality, are these signs that the Kremlin is collapsing? This is directly from the Times. This guy every day predicts that Putin's going to go down, and every day the Kiev Post quotes him.
It's like this guy, I was debating on TikTok, this Kaolan, what's his name? I don't know how to pronounce it right. It's the same thing. Every time elites are turning against Putin, Kremlin is collapsing, fight inside of Kremlin, they're gonna, this kind of stuff.
It's just not happening. I mean, whatever your viewpoint is, whatever you support, the reality is that's not what's going on in Russia. For good or for bad, the country is under control. There are no riots. There is no political uprising waiting to happen tomorrow or here.
There was coup basically in May when Prigozhin went with tanks to Moscow.
But that was like 2 years ago. But that's the
I'm just saying, he even survived
okay.
this.
Yeah, I mean, that was something, but that was 2 years ago. But since then, there's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he even survived this. Putin survived this. I mean, tanks were going to Moscow. And
yes, I get your point. Yeah.
And they still write on Twitter, why don't you riot? And they message me, Natasha, why don't you riot? Like, I'm going to go to square and what?
You're going to get your own personal tank.
So you want me to be like, FBK wants to imprison me, so I'm going to stay in prison?
Here's the example I always use. Americans like, you have to stand up. And I'm like, what did you during the Iraq and Afghanistan invasion? So like, but we marched in the streets. And I'm like, and you reelected Bush. You marched, you felt good, like thoughts and prayers. Marching in the United States against the war is like thoughts and prayers because they reelected the same guy. And then even when they didn't reelect him, only because they couldn't reelect him because of term limits, when they elected the next guy did the same stuff. And you reelected him too.
Not these people. These people who were protesting, they were not re-electing. It's another people.
But the point is the country reelected the person.
Yeah.
They didn't overthrow the person. They didn't even unelect him. So my point is, if Americans don't even unelect somebody, they're expecting the Russians to riot and overthrow somebody when they can't even throw somebody out in an election?
Yeah, that was my point all the time. You even have normal elections. Like here, our elections are, they always elect people that are needed here. So there are no even real elections here.
Well,
and they expect us to change something.
I could say the same about the American elections, that, my thing is that the American election is an illusion of a democracy. At least at the higher levels, they will choose those in power, the lobbyists. See, in the US, they've legalized corruption. They call it lobbying.
Lobbying.
That stuff is illegal in Russia. It might happen, but at least it's illegal. In the US, not only does it happen, but it is a legal framework for it. So the lobbyists and those in power, they will pre-elect two candidates and they'll give you, here are your two choices. So then you think you have a democracy, but you've really just been given a choice of two people who drastically, in the scheme of the big things, have already been pre-accepted by the people who really control everything.
That's why America is flawed democracy, but still you choose actually, like you live in St. Petersburg and we can't choose even people who, work here in the state.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I don't see a massive difference.
If at least, actually Russia had elections before, like there was Zemstva during Tsar time when people actually elected people who were represented.
Yeah, what you're talking about is our governors and things are appointed. Well, they're appointed to run and then you can choose from your appointees, right?
At least, yeah, why not?
So we have some choice, but they're chosen. But at least, and I'm not defending it one of them, but I'm saying, at least we know what's happening in Russia, where Americans think that their people are not already appointed. They have the illusion.
No, but there are actually elections. I mean, in the US, you can actually elect a person.
But the problem is at the the lower levels, there's absolute democracy.
So I'm saying you can
go
at
the higher levels.
Mayor.
Okay, mayor, yes. Okay. But at any big city or the higher levels, the people you've been given a choice to vote for, of the ones who can actually win, are already pre-chosen by the moneyed interests.
By their party, but
the party's controlled by the big companies and the big lobbying. Those people can't get there without the support of
course,
these.
You need money for that, so.
Okay. But they're selling out to these lobbyists. So my point is, let's say you have a mayor of Chicago or Los Angeles, whatever. Yeah, you're basically going to come down to two candidates. Those two candidates have been pre-approved by the people pulling the strings. And you'll have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but those people will never win. Those are token candidates. And they always win, especially at the presidential level. The two people that make it to the top, they basically have this two-party system. Europe has a much better system. Europe has a coalition. So you elect people, and then they have to form coalitions to get a ruling coalition to elect a prime minister. But the U.S. doesn't have this system. And so the U.S. system is far more corruptible. I'm not saying that Europe isn't corrupt on its own, but it's far more corruptible because the moneyed interests they make sure that when the election comes, so the last election was, it was Biden and then it wasn't Biden. But okay, let's just say Biden versus Trump until it wasn't, right? Well, Biden was the existing president. But those people are already chosen by the lobbyists and the people to be in those positions. You only get to choose from who they give you to choose from. And then make sure the people they choose. But they're not significantly that different in a lot of areas, in most of the big areas. That's the point. There's some areas they're different on, but when you look at the policy between them, usually there's not massive difference.
Yeah, that's true. But you see, your system gave birth to
not my
Trump.
system. Not my system.
Okay, American system gave birth to Trump. This is unimaginable in Russia. Unimaginable.
I think it was unimaginable there too.
Actually,
Trump is not something that can be imagined. Trump is just something that happens.
honestly, I didn't think he would win, but then all this thing happened with Biden, and I was like, there's no choice. One is bold,
But then again,
one is...
Trump only got there because he was acceptable to, the real power brokers.
No, it's political science, короче. Still, there's choice, you see? And these two political parties, they always fight.
I call it the illusion of choice.
But they still fight between each other. Here,
Of course
there's
they
no
do.
party. There's one party here. There's not even two. It's only one party.
No, we have more than one party. We have other parties, but even in the Duma, we have other parties. I'm not disagreeing with you on the other points, but I'm saying that if you look, there are other parties. You can call them token party, whatever, but there are other parties in the Duma.
I know that there are other parties, but in reality, when you look how they vote, it's very clear there's no opposition.
Okay, I'm speaking from a factual standpoint, there are other parties. Whether or not they're in line with the main party is a different discussion point, but there are other parties.
But they are not we are a divergence from the point, actually.
Okay. So there is new censorship film rules that films can be blocked if they show things that are against traditional values. So in July 2025, the State Duma approved a law expanding the grounds on which films can be denied distribution licenses. If a film deemed to discredit traditional Russian spiritual and moral values, it can now be blocked from theaters entirely.
И что? Soon we're gonna watch Soviet movies.
No, it's not that bad. I mean, I'm not defending it one way or the other, but it's not like they're outright denying everything. And to be fair, Germany, especially the UK, has similar laws, and some of them are pretty broad as well.
Like what?
Well, Germany, of course, some of them denying the Holocaust. That's just not very broad.
That makes sense, of course.
The UK is actually the bigger one of concern. There have been a lot of things. I mean, this isn't related to a film, but a woman called a police horse gay, and she went to jail for that. So the UK has some pretty big, serious speech thing. There's a lot of films that were not allowed to be distributed in the UK, American films, until they were edited. So they were basically the same thing. They were blocked until things that they felt were objectionable were removed.
I don't know. I need to see these cases actually to see what. But yeah, the UK is actually going into this digital gulag also as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty obvious by their last laws. You see, they changed something. Privacy also.
UK or UK or Russia?
UK.
Oh, the UK is lost. It's like I don't think Americans realize how bad the UK has really. I mean, I know there's this quote around more people have been put in jail in England for political speech than in Russia. And when you dig into it, the numbers they throw out, some of them are inflated, but when you get down to it, it's true. More people in the UK have been put into jail for saying political things than in Russia, which is insane.
It's usually right wing. It's usually people with very
not
radical
always.
point of views, actually.
Not always.
But,
and the thing though is, I like to explain that in Russia, we know where the electric fence is. We may not agree with where the electric fence is, but it's generally pretty visible. Okay. So we know, don't go here, don't do this. And generally, if you get near it, you usually get a few warnings, unless you like blazingly go through the bulldozer or something. If you bounce off it, you get a few warnings. Whereas in a lot of Western countries, it's more like they're still offensive, but they're more invisible. You don't know until you hit them. When you hit them, there's a lot of times not anymore.
No, I don't know. If it says don't be racist, then don't be racist. It's pretty clear.
Well, it's open to interpretation. One person's racism is another person's, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you deny Holocaust, it's pretty clear,
Yeah, okay, I understand that.
Holocaust denial. However, in the US, it's allowed. You have a lot of Holocaust denials there. I was shocked when I went to Twitter and like people are damn serious. Like that never happened. Like,
there's people that think the Earth is flat.
what?
The Earth is flat.
Yeah, they are.
But should that be illegal? I am not a Holocaust denier by any means, but I'm just.
But it's not dangerous. However, yeah, probably scientists are gonna debate me that it's, or vaccine deniers and this kind of
Again,
stuff.
I'm not trying to take a side. I want everybody to understand. I'm not trying to take a side on any of these laws. I'm just trying to explain them and compare and contrast them. That many of the things that people criticize Russia for, the same things happen in the West.
They're not
Sometimes
exactly
around
the
different
same.
issues. They're not entirely the same, but they are the same types of issues. And in some cases, they're even worse in the West in some cases.
I will debate that, but
I'm not saying in all cases. I'm saying in some cases.
there's definitely an erosion of these types of like European Western values in the West. That's really much visible to everyone right now, actually, and it's so much concerning. But I still have hopes that they will manage it eventually. But digital gulag, as I call it.
Well, look at Edward Snowden. Look at what Edward Snowden revealed to us. All of that was completely illegal, even under U.S. laws, and it continues. I mean, that is so much worse. What the NSA does in the U.S. to its own citizens is so much worse than anything the Russian government can do to its people here, just because the amount of money they're spending on it. I mean, Russia would have to just they can't even touch the amount of money being spent on that.
Because Russia is generally cheaper than the U.S. So of course we are going to
Not
spend
just cheaper.
less.
Russia prefers a different method. The U.S. prefers this method of collect everything. So when we want somebody, we have something on them no matter what. There's a book called 3 Felonies a Day, and it's written by a lawyer, a federal lawyer. He basically explains that in the U.S., everybody commits 3 felonies a day unknowingly. So when they want to come for you, they already have something on you.
I don't know. I heard a different point of view. I bet. So they collect data, but the way how data is stored is quite different than the Russia. Like even look at the number of leaks we have, like go to Slugi, for example, even simple one. We have this internet, how to call it. You don't have this in the US.
No, the U.S. has multiple systems, but they've been hacked too.
Slugi is a system that actually carries all our information, right? Where we can, to avoid bureaucracy, we go to this e-government app or site.
It has its plus and its minus.
Yeah,
it does make government operations very easily. I mean, things are very efficient here. And compared to the U.S., my gosh.
No, it's very cool. It's a great idea. I loved it. But the problem is how the info is stored there.
Yeah.
It's quite, how to call it? I don't know. It's concerning.
The U.S. gets hacked just as badly. When we come to this, data security is difficult.
Not like this. Not like this. Because here, I can show, okay, I can't show you. It's extremism. But there are places that are selling this data just like this.
It happens the same way in the U.S. I think because you haven't lived in the U.S., there's a lot of things that I see that you may not. But yes, it happens here. But it's just as bad in the U.S. when it comes to this, if not worse.
Like we can go and just...
The thing about the U.S. is the U.S. you're in the U.S., you're in more databases. And many of the databases are private because the government has farmed it out. So American citizen data is a much bigger risk than in Russia, in my opinion.
That's your opinion, though. But is there any data that can support it? That's the point.
Yeah.
Like here we have a lot of leaks. We see it.
So much of the U.S. farms it out to private companies, and those private companies get hacked. So what ends up in the U.S. is instead of in Russia where your stuff might be in like 3 or 4 databases, in the U.S. your stuff will be in 50 databases. There's more points to hack, and they get hacked all the time, especially since they're farming it out to private companies. It's not even a government database. They're paying a private contractor to do it.
Yeah, they employ...
And because they have all this exchange between the databases, I would say when it comes to that point, that Americans' data is far more at risk and gets hacked far more than even Russian data. When it does here, it's much bigger. It's headlines, but you should really look at how many hacks there are of Americans' data.
That will be an interesting topic actually to discover. How safe their data is.
There's much stricter rules, for example, in Russia as to who can have your data. So especially when it comes to a private company, what that private company can have on you is much stricter in Russia than it is in the United States.
But still, it's leaked everywhere. Like I can Google in a few, I don't know, it gives me a few seconds. I'm going to Google on myself more than you can imagine right now.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
without even paying.
And the American databases get sold too. I'm just saying that from what I've seen and again, my background's IT, and I'm not talking about government policy or one of them, but I'm just saying that effectively, Americans' data is at much bigger risk than Russian person's data is.
So that's also probably the reason why states right now, different kind of states all over the world, trying to gate their internet, trying to gate their people inside of the country, pushing these laws for data security, right? And
like the European GDPR, General Data Protection Rule.
Yeah. That's
which is about 10 years old now. And in general, it's generally a good thing. I mean, there are a lot of things I don't like about the EU. And there are many things I do like about the EU. In general, the EU does at least try to provide data privacy for its citizens, much better than the US does. But Russia compared to the US, Russia does a better job. The laws are much stricter here than they are in the US. How Russia compares against the EU, I don't know. That's a line I would have to look into deeper. But compared to the US, the data protections are much better here.
That's interesting, because I thought actually in cybersecurity, the US is better than Russia.
No.
At least in this. We don't talk about running after political prisoners, after people with different opinions, because here, they use this data, of course, to run after people, after dissidents and people with different opinion. I didn't see that in the US. Like, you can be libertarian, you can be tanky communist, and nobody's gonna come to you and
when it comes to political expression, the US is much freer. But again, the fences are in different places. In the US, it's not the government that'll come after you. It's society. You'll get canceled for saying certain things.
Right now, they're running after migrants.
There's a lot of things, yeah. But look at the number of people who have lost their careers because they said the wrong thing, and the society just canceled them.
But that's another thing. It's cancel culture. That's a different thing. It's not like government.
I agree, but
policy.
I'm saying and I've clearly meant that it's not government policy, but you can still be destroyed by an unknown. That's why I said the fences are more of an invisible fence in the United States. And yes, from a political standpoint, yes, you have far more political freedom in the US to say what you want. But then again, Westerners think in Russia that we never talk politics. Yeah, it's not wise. If you have a very big social media following, it's not wise to go on and say bad things about the government, okay? But among private people talk here.
Like we're sitting right now in the kitchen.
Well, we're on
discussing.
camera, but some people here, among people, that people generally talk fairly freely about things here.
Honestly speaking, it also depends. Like,
there are certain subjects you do, like, I shouldn't say this, but
they
in
try
general,
to avoid, like, if we talk about
but it's not like
military operation, for example.
But it's not like Soviet times. People generally do discuss politics here, not as much as the US. I don't think you realize that in the US, how much, especially, and it started around the 1990s. In the 1980s, politics was not the way it was in the US now, but now it's like politics is like an everyday, it's like part of people's life. It's just not even that way in Russia. People, they do discuss politics, but it's not like the number one topic of every discussion. Whereas in the US, it's like politics is woven its way into everything.
Because you can influence on something.
I don't think it's because of that.
You can speak about politics and what?
I think it's been put there to more divide society. In the US.
That's what I was.
Because remember, the 80s was the 80s, 1980s before was not like this. Politics existed, but it didn't consume the discussion. Whereas in the US now, it's become consuming the discussion.
Yeah, that's.
Whereas here, people do talk politics, but it's not the number one topic of discussion.
That's actually, I made a tweet recently about Cold War. Second one that's going on right now. Actually, we're in Cold War, definitely. But this Cold War is different from the first. It's not about like democracy against autocracy. It's more about ideas, like, like liberalism against traditionalism, like this type of stuff. And it's happening not between countries, but inside of countries. And in the US, from what I see, it's huge division. It's true. Like, there are people with one point of view and there's people with another point of view, and they can't even communicate. Like before, they were trying to communicate.
And that's what I'm saying changed around the 90s.
They just fight with each other, and it's just black and white.
It wasn't always like that. There was a time when I grew up, and this really changed in the mid 90s, in the 80s, where political discussion was like, we don't discuss politics at church. We don't discuss politics here. If you want to discuss politics, it's fine, but you take that and you discuss politics. It wasn't this open arena where politics was everywhere that it's become in the United States now. And my point is that, yes, the politics differ and the restrictions differ, but in Russia, that point is, it's not the consuming factor. When we go out and we have coffee or tea or minion juice, we go out, politics is not likely the number one thing that's going to come up. And it's not because of restrictions, it's just because people prefer to focus on other things.
Because we have so many difficulties in life right now that we need to solve.
Everybody has that. I mean, in the US, you have the homeless, the drug problem. You could always say that about, but in the US, they've used the politics has become to a top level tier that it's become the distraction.
But
it's like football. It's like everything else.
Like
it's
you're
used to
sitting,
distract
listen,
people.
in the US, like you're sitting, I don't know, discussing politics, like should we give, I don't know, rights to LGBTQ community to marry, for example. But here you sit and discuss from where I'm going to get medicine that I need for my AIDS, for example, that is not in Russia because there's sanctions and I need to find
But
this
in the
medicine.
US, what I'm saying is
It's completely different
they've raised the politics to the level of you're focused on that rather than those problems, because Americans have those very much problems too. Remember the video I sent you about the doctor where they were denying there was the insurance claim. They were pretending to be a doctor. They weren't. They're trying to deny this cancer treatment to somebody. So
that's realistic.
The healthcare system in the US, and this does not apply to Europe or the place, it is such a massive mess. And they're using the politics to distract the people from their real problems. Because they're fighting about politics, they're not fighting about the healthcare.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of issues like housing crisis, like these problems of no career growth for youth, right? Like how they're going to pay their debts.
And so your proposition is that people are complaining about the real problems rather than the politics. But what I'm saying is in the US, they're using the politics to distract the people from the real problems. Not that our real problems are bigger or lesser than theirs are. People always have problems. When it comes to
They're just
healthcare,
different kinds of them.
I will take the healthcare and the housing situation here any day over the US. If you look at the homeless and drug problem they have serious infrastructure problems. Now they're like, yeah, but you live under Putin. Okay, but that's true. But you have to understand that our society functions better here. Whether or not that's a result of Putin or not, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that Americans seem to accept this idea that, yeah, I can go out tonight and get killed. I might even get shot because, hey, there's a shooting at Walmart every other week, but that's just the price of democracy. I don't accept that because America was not that way in the 1980s. Something has significantly changed, but Americans have now been lulled into this idea of that's just the price of democracy. And it's not.
Yeah, like remember, everyone is recording Metro right now in Russia. And
I started that trend.
And I remember I went to Twitter and mayor of New York, I think, or something like, yes, our metro is dirty because we are democracy. And I'm like, no, your metro is dirty because it's management issue. Just it's solvable, not because we are dictatorship here. No, it's not because of that.
Their defense is like, would you rather live under Putin? But the point is
can solve it.
The point is for many people, the answer is yes, I rather would, because people care about schools, safety, healthcare, transportation. And for a lot of people just trying to get by, yes, a lot of people, the answer is they would rather live here or in China or in places because they're willing to make certain sacrifices because their main goal is they want to live.
To survive. No.
And they're willing to give up political speech for other things.
Trade, yes.
And Americans say that's a trade they would never make, but then they go out and they're like, oh, I just got mugged. My friend got shot. I mean, in the U.S., there's the amount of shootings in the U.S. and it is beyond control. And again, it doesn't have to be this way because it was not like this in the 1980s. I'm not saying the 1980s America was perfect, but it was not like what's going on now. And the same thing with Western Europe.
People will come and tell you, these boomers are sitting here telling us how America was great.
I'm Gen X, by the way. I'm not a boomer.
No, they will say, because that's the mentality of boomers usually, this.
I know.
But they will say there's two boomers in the city.
I'm not saying that Russia's perfect. I'm not saying that America's perfect. But the problem is that Russians are more understanding about their system. Whereas Americans are like, no, our system is the best in the world. I mean, like among people, they'd be like, yeah, well, the healthcare sucks. But the minute they go into the public, they will not admit that their system is not perfect. They're like, no, America was blessed by Jesus. And no matter what we do, it is the best. Meanwhile, that allows them to just cover the fact that they have serious problems.
I don't think, I think they see because we can...
They do see, but they won't admit it.
They admit, actually, when you go to TikTok, you will see a lot of people complaining about healthcare. It's the main, I think, weak point of the US.
Until you criticize it as a foreigner. Yeah, they will admit it on their own.
Yeah,
but if you call them out...
It's the same in Russia. It's the same in Russia. Like, I can say as a Russian, I can complain about Russia and say bad things, but you as a foreigner can't.
Mm-hmm. But Russians are more, and not just Russians, it's even Europeans and so forth, are more understanding of the actual system. I'm saying that the Americans have had the wool pulled over their eyes far more. And they're the ones that think they have it. They accuse us of not knowing what's going on, but really, both sides have problems, but they're the ones that really recognize their problems far less.
I would say the same for Russians. Because the majority of people here actually, sit and watch First Channel, they watch Solovyov, and they will tell you Putin is great and the country is the best and we have no problems here.
I don't think that's the majority of the people. I mean, we do have people like that here.
You live in St. Petersburg, that's why.
But
St. Petersburg is very liberal, very liberal.
I know. Oh, St. Petersburg absolutely is. But remember, I was traveling. I was in Naberezhny Chelny. You don't get more industrial than that. Okay? I mean, I traveled throughout Russia. You know this. And I lived in Irkutsk in 2001. I mean, it was only for a few months before I came here. But I am very cognizant that St. Petersburg is the... I don't want to call it the San Francisco of... Because San Francisco becomes such a...
They say like Seattle, people say, actually.
Okay, that's a better example. I will accept that one. Yeah, so that's a better comparison. St. Petersburg is more like a Seattle of Russia. It is definitely more liberal and, more artistic and,
And actually it's political. I can say, you might not know this, but there's a lot of underground politics. Here. There are clubs and pubs that unite people with different point of views. Maybe I should make a video on that. Like libertarians, they meet libertarians.
Oh, I like libertarians. That's kind of cool. But yeah, libertarians.
Because every time it's Russian libertarians. In Russian it's libertarians, and I always want to say the same in English. So they meet in a bar here in Fontanka, actually, and they have political debates there. They actually meet and debate. There are nationalists that also meet in another bar, and they go there and they have lectures and talk about I don't know, Nazi Germany. Not in an extremist way. I mean, they learn history.
Yeah, of course.
Etc. And there are communists also. They have their own, which is kind of interesting because all of this is not like mainstream. It's not like you can read it in news, but the people
don't realize that the Communist Party here is still here, but they're kind of an opposition party in some way.
Yeah, there are opposition communists here.
But see, the thing is, Westerners all think that Russia still is communist, but the real truth is that the Communist Party here is in fact an opposition party.
An opposition, yeah.
And it's just that, I mean, but Westerners have no clue about this kind of thing. I mean, most Westerners have no clue that we're actually a capitalist society. We are a hybrid system, but so is the U.S. The U.S. is a hybrid system. They have Social Security. Social Security. That is socialism, but America's like, we hate socialism, but they love their Social Security.
Which Social Security?
Social Security is like...
No, we in the U.S.
Yeah, the U.S. has Social Security.
Which one? You have like private medicine?
No. Social Security. No, Social Security is an actual government program. It's off the counter. Sorry. Cat was on the counter. He's a rogue cat. He rarely goes up on the counter either. He's just been mooching for...
I didn't know. There's some...
No, you get off the counter.
I thought there's a snake or something. Jesus.
So... Yeah, what were we talking about?
Social Security.
So Social Security is an actual government program in the U.S. It's a very big government program, and it covers a lot of things. Most people think it as their government retirement. So in the U.S., when you reach your retirement age, you might have a private pension, but there's also a government pension.
Okay.
It can also include, depending on how you classify it, it might include your Medicare, Medicaid, it might include certain government shows. But Americans love their Social Security. They will always take it. But they're like, socialism sucks. But it's like, Social Security, that is socialism. So the United States, yes, it's a capitalist market, but it is a hybrid market. It has some socialist aspect.
I think people who shout this socialist...
But Russia is a capitalist economy.
I think the people who shout in the U.S. against it, these are not the people who support it, actually. They support it.
They support it when it comes to their own. When it comes to their time to take the money from it, they fully support it.
Because it's already there. Why not to use it?
But the point is, but the U.S. doesn't work that way. It's not like you put the money away. It comes from existing people. My point is that Russia is a hybrid capitalist system, as are all capitalist economies. And in many ways, Russia is more capitalist than the United States, especially when it comes to competition. Like in the U.S., you have far less competition in telecommunications and other areas. Here, we have much more choices when it comes to our services than in the U.S. So in many ways, we have a more capitalist economy in many sectors than the Americans do, although we have a stronger social system as well.
Yeah, it's because of Soviet Union. You can't just, turn capitalist like this 100% day overnight.
But I'm saying that in many ways, it's more capitalist here. So my proposition is that Russia is more capitalist than America is, but that we also are more socialist. It's more capitalist and more socialist, but they work together.
More capitalist in what? In market, you mean?
Because we have more competition in the market here. In the U.S., the big companies have all gotten to the point that they control each other, that in many choices, you don't get a choice. You have one maybe two choices like their political system. You have the illusion of some choice, and those two just cooperate. Whereas here, like internet providers, I mean, I have like probably 15 internet providers I can choose. Where in the US, I have one, maybe two I can choose from. And it's that way in so many markets in the US where you have these massive monopolies, whereas in Russia, we have much more competition.
Like RGD monopolist. Like we have some oil monopolist.
Okay. We have some things, yes. But those are typical, very, very large things. And even with RGD, we do have some competition. There are different companies that operate different trains. Nevsky Express operates on RGD, but it's a separate company. So even in passenger rail, not only do we have more competition, but we have a functioning passenger rail. But the state realizes that there are certain things that do need some state intervention to operate at a larger thing. But even in aviation, we have more competition. So generally, most of the services we can choose here, we have more competition. And the areas where the government intervenes are areas that it realizes that these are things that are essential to national security or national economy or national functioning of society. So they're going to have somewhat control in it. But even in those areas, they allow some competition,
It's also happened historically, because a lot of businesses that are like a post office, right? Like RGD, which is railroad, and even Aeroflot, right? Sberbank. These types of companies, they were Soviet monopolists.
But all of them right now, we also have
control over it.
Yeah. So we have Sputterbank, but we have T-Bank. We have serious competition. It's not like, that's the point. It's not like Sputterbank is so big that nobody can compete with them. In fact, the private companies are really competing with them. But Sputterbank is still that fallback that everyone can use. And the government, in fact, I would propose that it's evolved into a system that the government has one player, in fact, to foster competition, to make sure that the others can't push each other out and gain a monopoly.
Oh, Sberbank, it's like with the web.
Well, you see, my point is, I'm saying that even to the point where there are government sponsored, they're sponsoring competition. And in fact, the government alternative is there to foster competition.
I don't know if actually it's government who did that or it's just naturally developed this way because, the 90s market was open. So a lot of people took opportunity to create companies.
But I think the government sense that has recognized that this competition is valuable. Otherwise, they would just nationalize it and say, everybody uses Sberbank. Why do we need more than one bank? But they don't. They realize the value of other banks, but they also realize the value of if they were to pull Sputterbank out or sell Sputterbank completely off, then what happened in the US is the banks would all merge together and you would end up with less competition. But by keeping one as a government alternative, it helps keep the competition in the market.
See, the problem is that whole T-Bank, it was developed by Tinkoff, what's happening with him. So that's the problem. Like if in the US, if you start a company, you can know that it's not going to be taken away from you or you're not going to be pushed out of the country.
Can you? What's happening with TikTok?
TikTok is Chinese.
Okay,
it
but
didn't
it's
start.
Still,
it's not American. I'm talking about American.
No, it's not actually. TikTok America is an American company.
Yeah.
And it's majority owned by TikTok Singapore, which is not Chinese.
Yeah.
And the rest are, it's like 45% American investors. This is a political play as much as it is anything else. This is a political play by the son of Larry Ellison to get control of TikTok.
Yeah.
And this is the lobbying type stuff I'm talking about. The same stuff you can say that happens in Russia, which we can agree is good or bad. The same thing happened in America, but they happen under different masks.
Well, не знаю. I can't agree. TikTok is a special case, I think.
I would have to go through some of the archive thing, but I can find other examples of this thing happening too.
It's just like I don't know. Like here, that you can't be secure because, TikTok is still not blocked in Russia, in UK, in US. With all this mess that was going on, right?
TikTok's not blocked in Russia either, technically. TikTok?
Yeah.
TikTok blocked Russia. Russia did not block TikTok.
Listen, that's another thing. It's another topic to discuss. But that's the point. That in the US, if you open business and they're going to try to shut you down like they are trying to do with TikTok, there's still courts and you go and appeal, right? And you go and further protect yourself and they do it publicly.
But they do it publicly in a way that you get buried under so much lawsuit you can. I could show you so many areas where Amazon has literally bought off the Department of Justice. These companies get so big that they literally can get the Department of Justice to do what they want and no one can oppose them because of the amount of money. I can show you many people Amazon has screwed. That's just one example. The same thing happened in the US. They just have a better mask on them. And this is what I'm trying to explain to you. I'm not trying to justify one or the other. I'm saying that in many of these aspects, the US is just as bad. They're just better at painting lipstick on it.
still return back to TikTok. They're not blocked, right? And
Yeah.
they didn't remove them from the US. Still can't, and they will not be able, I think.
But Russia didn't block TikTok either. Russia did block Instagram.
I'm not talking about TikTok. Russia pushed a lot of businessmen out of the country.
Yeah.
Just like this. And you can't do anything with that because, courts are not independent. If the state, maybe that's the difference. If the state will decide to push you out, they will do.
The difference is in the US, things are controlled by the corporations.
Yeah, I think that's
which my point is that I'm acknowledging your point, but I'm also saying that I don't think that when you look at the actual statistics and you rip off a lipstick of these things, the facade, that the US has just as big a problem, but it's the corporations that are really, really ruling everything. Here, the government controls the oligarchs. In the United States, it's the oligarchs that controls the government, but they're better about putting a facade on it. I mean, look at just Elon Musk in the recent election. And you don't think that hasn't happened under the cover for years with Amazon, all this other stuff?
What about Elon Musk?
I'm thinking there's a mask on it, so you don't realize it so much. Americans don't realize that, again, the two parties, who gets to the top is only who gets approved by the people sending the money. And the people sending the money are the Amazons, the Oracles, the Microsoft.
That makes sense. Of course, it's like everywhere. Like, who is pushing money for campaigns for these people for running?
But
for
see, in the
elections?
US, this changed.
Everywhere.
And I remember when Citizens United happened, it was in 2000, but there was a major Supreme Court case which changed the funding. And this is when the United States especially started to become really controlled and lost this true democracy, becomes an illusion democracy. Prior to that, there were issues, but it was much more democracy until the thing, a lot of people don't realize a lot of the structural changes that have happened with court rulings since the 90s in the US, the last 20 to 30 years. They're still evaluating America like it's the 1980s, and it's not.
Maybe you should analyze it and present it.
Oh, many people have. Yeah, I mean, we would certainly make this a whole other discussion.
Yeah, because...
But what America is much better, like the propaganda. So, for example, both sides obviously have their propaganda. But Russian propaganda is much more in your face, like, whom? The West is bad, right? Where...
Not the West, we are traditional.
Yes, okay, whatever.
We are better.
Whatever the message is they want. Russian propaganda is very in your face. And I'm not saying it's not effective, because you repeat something enough, it's going to have some sort of effect. But it's easier to recognize it. Whereas Western propaganda, what they do is they slip it into the movies. They slip it in here, they slip it in there. And it's the Western sources, especially the Americans, so much. Well, soft power is one way of it, yes. But I'm not supposed to comment on it. But I'm just talking about that the West, especially America, is so much better at the propaganda than Russia. Because when it happens, people are they're like, no, I haven't got propaganda, but they don't realize that there's all of these subliminal messages attacking them from all these different ways. Whereas Russian propaganda is not very subliminal. It's pretty much right there. And again, it can be effective, but the subliminal effect over time really has a much more effect, because people, they truly don't have a clue at all whatsoever. Again, this thing of Jesus blesses the United States. I mean, if you ask, and I'm not saying everybody, and there are certainly Americans who are cognizant, but in general, many Americans believe that America is special. There is no country like it on the planet Earth, and they are the greatest and always will be the greatest. Not Germany, not Canada. I mean, Canada's a good country, but they're not as good as America, but not to the level the Americans do. Yeah, I understand every country has.
We have the same nationalistic thing. Like, Americans are dumb and we are smart. You heard
I
this,
understand.
I'm sure.
I've heard it. There's a difference between nationalism and what I'm talking about this, though. And yes, every country does have this element. But in the US, it's much more pervasive. Yes, every country has a strong nationalist element but in the United States, if you were to take as a whole, most people, even the ones who I would not classify as nationalists, they still believe that America is somehow God-blessed and is the greatest country on the planet.
Yeah, because it's the national myth. Like I talk about the national myth of Russia.
The national myth in America is much more pervasive than it is in Russia. It might not be, I'm not talking about the extremists in this side, but I'm saying if you take like an average person, they're still going to believe that you're going to find, in Russia, you're going to find, the nationalists are going to say Russia's the greatest. You're going to find that in Greece, you're going to find that in Cyprus, you're going to find that in Germany. Everybody has a nationalist element. But I'm talking about people that I wouldn't classify as nationalists, that still believe that, like if you were to go to like Germany and we exclude the nationalists, you can find people that are like, I like Germany. I'm German, I'm proud of Germany. That's one thing. But they're not going to be like, but Germany is better than everybody else. They'll be like, Germany is great, but the Netherlands is great for Netherlands people too. France is great for French people. We're all kind of great in our own ways. But Americans, a vast majority of them are literally like, America is different. America is the best country on the planet. Not in a nationalist way.
I think a lot of people will come in comments and tell you are wrong here.
I'm sure they will.
Every time when I post my videos on TikTok, Americans come and they say that America is the worst place on the earth. But I started to think that maybe I should make some videos.
And again, I'm not saying everybody is. I'm not saying, obviously many people do know. But I'm saying if you take a percentage of the people who were to follow that line, it's a much higher percentage.
Do you have the statistics? We don't have the statistics.
You don't
so
have
it's
these.
just a personal, like.
It is, but I think many people would agree with this point. It's because it's a myth that's really built into the non-nationalists within the United States as well. It's a myth that escapes beyond the nationalists. So I would say that America has fewer nationalists, but the people who believe this American exceptionalism are more.
It's that's why I spoke about myth, national myth. It's not about nationalism. It's about the myth that unites people in the country.
So if we were looking at like a curve,
what makes us American?
Like Russia might be like nationalist and then kind of like this. Okay, that's how most countries are. But America's more like, where you have this big hunk in the center who are not nationalists, but they're exceptionalists.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes, exceptionalism, American exceptionalism, that's definitely the thing, but not nationalism. Maybe nationalism is another story, maybe a little bit. I'm saying that the core myth of the U.S. is like we are land of freedom, right? We are land of these settlers who came here, pilgrims, right? Who came here. You can be whomever you want to be in this country, this American dream. That's true. Like we are exceptional because there's no country in the earth that has these opportunities that we have.
Well,
land of freedom.
Yeah. Let's move to the odd, quirky headlines because we're getting. Okay, the Canal cat.
Oh my God, did you get rolled with you?
The Canal cat.
The what?
The Canal cat. The cat that was stuck in.
Canal cat. Wait, here are some local news from St. Petersburg that we have.
The whole city was enthralled with this cat. It took them, 10 days to rescue this cat? I mean, because St. Petersburg is a city of cats. I mean, it's not quite Istanbul.
And canals.
Yeah. So anyways, the cat was stuck in one of the canals. The wall had a gap or something, and the cat went up inside it. And they spent like 10 days rescuing this cat and basically enthralled the entire city. They did get the cat out.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, before the water rose. So that was, kind of a quirky thing. We have cat rescues. We have seal rescues.
Show the video of this.
Oh, okay. I'll try and dig it up, stick it in there. So in other words, and I can never pronounce the city right, but in Murino?
Murino. It's a city. It's an area in
like
St.
a suburb.
Petersburg.
Yeah, it's one of the human anthills. It's actually not that bad. I've been out there. But Murina, and the Russian plowing championship, they made a hot dog 48 meters long. It's about 150 meters long. Okay. It took them 3 hours to make this hot dog. You know how long it took them to eat it? I already told you, so it doesn't count, but 3 hours to make a 150-foot long hot dog. It took them, and I'm not making this, it took them 5 minutes to eat it. That's a Morinese exceptionalism right there.
That's fast. These people are probably too hungry, they are.
So we will post them. Okay, what else?
Yeah.
This is our
news we deserve.
Yeah, news we deserve. So this week. So okay. Oh, Russia's new AI war on weed. Hogweed, that is. So we have
to use artificial.
Well, people don't know what hogweed is. So hogweed, it does exist in the U.S., but it's this invasive plant that's really like killing some villages
different
here.
Type, though.
Yeah, you can't like touch it. You can't you can touch it, but the juice inside can burn your hands, and it's like taking over small villages and things. And they're going to start to use artificial intelligence to try and control this thing because
it looks like a huge deal, actually, when you look at it. It's like 2 meters, I think, tall.
Most
maybe
Americans
more.
don't know what dill is. They're thinking of something else right now. Dill is a Russian, I don't know if it's an herb, but it's just a plant we put in all the food. It's what's in a dill pickle, okay? Dill pickle. That's the only way Americans know what dill is if you say dill pickle.
Just a second, I'm sorry. That's good. Well, by the way, I'm coughing, right? We went to doctor today.
How much did it cost you?
0.
Okay.
It cost me dime. So, because they decided to check everything what I have. Because I have cough for like more than 2 weeks.
And so they decided to charge everything. They didn't bill you $50,000?
No, we don't pay for healthcare here, actually. That's why I say it's free. But then everyone comes and shouts, it's not free. It's always paid by... Yeah, okay, it's paid by state.
Yeah, like Americans, your roads aren't free either. I mean, you pay for them with gas taxes.
Yeah, that's the, I think, shocking part for Americans.
At least we have something. We pay for it, but at least we have it. Americans pay the taxes and don't get anything for it.
No, but you get insurance if you work. So.
Should we go down that insurance rabbit hole?
And also there are some programs in some states like Medicare, Medicaid or Medicare.
If you're poor
or
disabled,
poor, you can get.
But if you're working, you have things like, they deny your claim, or they didn't know the procedure, or you still pay a deductible.
No, here we don't pay anything. So I spent half of the day. That's why we started late today, because I came late, because they want to see what's going on, why I'm coughing. And and coming to discussion, right? About...
Oh, we're talking about the weed, and then we talked about the healthcare, and the next thing we're talking about the hospital video, though.
That's what I was saying. That's why I'm trying to lead you.
So the Ukrainian. So Ukrainian made a video on TikTok of like, look how bad my hospital is. And then the Ukrainian propagandist took the video and redubbed it and says, look how bad this Russian hospital is.
Moscow hospital.
Moscow, but it wasn't in Moscow. It was in Ukraine. It was, in fact, Western Ukraine, not even the part that is like, Western Ukraine. You can even see there's a bag in the video that had the address of Ukrainian pharmacy.
And you know what else? Pepsi.
Yeah.
I saw it immediately. I'm like, that's not Russia.
Well, I mean, you can find Pepsi here, but it's pretty rare. I mean,
you can find, but nobody. Nobody's going to bring actually soda to hospital here.
The hospital would throw it out and be like, what's that doing?
They will not let you to enter with it.
Drink kvass instead. So they took a Ukrainian video of somebody complaining how bad the hospital was, and they're like, look how bad it is in Moscow. And this is how the propaganda works. And you could even hear the woman had a heavy Ukrainian accent.
Yeah, I immediately heard that she speaks.
We found the original video, and the original video was from a Ukrainian creator.
Yeah.
And plus all the Ukrainian people are coming out saying, this is Ukraine. People recognize the hospital.
No, but they frame it, and I saw it on Twitter later on. Like they see your medicine, your healthcare is bad, and I'm like, you're telling me I'm going to hospitals here every day, Like my dad is at hospital. My daughter, I take her to polyclinic that was fixed.
And with my situation, I deal with the polyclinic. I deal with my family's had surgeries. We deal with the public system here all the time.
But they'll say that it's St. Petersburg, but if you live in a village somewhere far away, they have no doctors. They will transfer you to big cities.
But they will transfer to big cities. Here's the difference. People have to remember that most of Russia, imagine Alaska was a huge country. A lot of Russia is these rural villages. So it's the same. I would compare Russia to Alaska. And if you live somewhere where you need a plane ride in, you might have a doctor there. But the difference is, here they're actually going to bring you. I know people that live in villages that have been evacuated by helicopter to the city. Whereas in Alaska, they'd be like, get here on your own or pay for this expensive flight.
Oh, here they just moved. Like, I have a village where my granddad used to live. It's far away, like in the forest. Absolutely.
But again, you're comparing against something like Alaska. You're not comparing against something in mainland U.S.
No, I mean, I have an experience with that. In this village, when my granddad became ill, I just called emergency, and emergency took him to the nearest city, 50 kilometers away.
Yes.
And then from this city, because they didn't have enough equipment, he had like some severe stuff. They moved him to St. Petersburg. So it's like, and it was.
And they cost them how much?
Years before, nothing. But sometimes you have to pay. That's another story,
But yeah, sometimes we do. But generally, what we do have to pay, it's still very affordable. Even if we have to go to private healthcare, it's not like, generally, most people, I mean, even you can get government dental care here, even. You made videos about that.
I do this. I don't pay for it. No, I mean,
weren't you the one who said there's government veterinary care here?
Yeah, actually, you can.
So, you hear that, Marcus? Where'd he go?
Yeah, you can vaccinate him for free. Okay. But if you want treatment, you'll have to pay.
But the point is, the private system, what's nice about the private system here is the private system here is more of a backup. It's not even a competition to the state system. It's like a backup, and it's very affordable. So
not all the time, honestly. Like if you have severe cases of cancer, sometimes people can't get treatment because they can't pay this money. Because some medicine is not covered by the state. And I have these cases with my friends. Like my best friend, she's got cancer, and they paid hundreds of thousands of rubles. And she survived only because her uncle is, this kind of white rich.
Okay, but let's put it in context. Hundreds of thousands of rubles. So let's say 400,000 rubles.
I don't remember.
Okay, but let's just say 400,000. That's hundreds of thousands of rubles. That's $4,000.
It's for you, but
yes,
for us.
I know, and I'm going to get to that. But even for a Russian, the possibility of raising $4,000 and coming up with that money is much easier than an American having to come up with $1 million or something. And the point is the cost of, because even in the US, you can be denied for these treatments. People in the US regularly lose their houses.
Yeah, I saw about that.
And so I'm saying here that the private system here, there are some cases, especially when it comes to certain medicines, but the treatment, even when you account for Russian salaries, it's far more affordable or within reach than it is in the United States.
If we look at masses, probably like, yeah, for most of people, let's say.
So even when you have to reach out to the private system, again, it's more affordable. It's generally within reach because cancer is very big. So if you were to spend if you told Americans to spend $4,000, even if we adjust it, we say, okay, for an American, that's $20,000. American would be like, $20,000, that's cheap. Because many Americans are spending $500, $600, $700,000.
You know what I thought? Okay, Russia actually is very bad in therapy. Our doctors are not great in this, but they are very great in surgeries. That's true. And it's like my words. And what Russia could do is to use soft power to bring these Americans or Westerners to get treatment in Russia. It would cost them like coins comparing. Seriously. Yeah. Like even from Alaska side, it's very easy.
But they'd have to swear oath to Putin first and communism and, like borscht first, right?
That.
Okay.
You have to sign a paper that you're for traditional values. That you're supporting traditional values. Just give me healthcare. No, really, that would be a great business opportunity.
Yeah, the healthcare, I mean, I accept all your criticisms of the Russian, but at the same point, if you compare it against the American system, most Americans would trade it for this system any day. And even a lot of Western European nations are in serious trouble with their systems. Not all of them. Some of them still have a pretty good system. France, I haven't been there for 20 years, but France had a pretty good system. And it was actually similar to the Russian system. They had a private public system.
Germany too, but
Germany, the last 20 years, that's a whole other thing. But like the UK system is a total mess right now. And the Canadian system is a total mess.
Canadian, I know, they're overloaded. Unfortunately, their system is a little bit collapsing.
But the Russian system is actually, the Russian medical system is an awful lot like the French system. It's an awful lot like the French system.
So we diverted from these.
Okay. The last one is, I call her Snogorchka.
Returning back to this info war of fakes, actually, from both sides. There's also a lot of fakes from our sides too, actually. But like what I was talking about, there was fake about hospital, right? And then I started to figure out, like, a lot of Westerners actually get their info, I don't know from where. Like, I read Snegovaya. Snegovaya is a political scientist. She was great. Used to read her. She does research on Eastern Europe, Russia and all this kind of stuff. She's from here, actually, but right now she's in the US. And I went and I saw this message in Telegram channel where she writes, my friend just went to St. Petersburg and she said that, do you have like text of it?
Oh, yeah, give me a second.
So she made a post about St. Petersburg and I was like, if this is what the information they're getting, no wonder they suck so much at sanctions and preventing Russia from invading countries and all this kind of stuff, because they don't understand.
Here's what you sent me.
Like, she said, here are impressions of like my friend, whatever, who has just returned from St. Petersburg. Widespread advertisement for recruitment to the special military operation.
Okay. But to be honest, in the United States, when they were in Iraq and Afghanistan, the same thing. They had recruited. Have you ever been to the US? They fly jets over every football game.
Yeah.
Every football game. So if you want to compare our recruitment attempts to the Americans, again, the Americans don't realize it because it's patriotic. When Americans recruit for the military, it's patriotic. But it's not patriotic when Russians do it. It's, something different.
It's she's comparing to St. Petersburg that was before war.
Okay.
So it makes sense. But it's not the end of the world. What else she said? A sharp deterioration. I can't pronounce
deterioration.
A sharp deterioration in the quality of products.
No. If anything, the quality has increased.
Actually, there was deterioration.
There was a short term after the
I think COVID or something like 2014 after Crimea, because sanctions hit, and then remember they removed cheeses from Europe, and all these products disappeared. But then actually Russia started to make these cheeses, and they're not better.
Well, okay, the cheese is one thing. Yeah, the cheese I agree that because I have some Italian friends, but the cheese making here is actually quite good.
Yeah, it's not
but
bad.
in most products, the quality of the cheese is good. Maybe not the flavor is exactly there. But the quality of the cheese, you might even say, has improved in all the case. And most products, the quality has improved because
that's made in Russia.
The standards in Russia are tighter than America for sure, and even tighter than most of Europe.
But she said that the quality became worse. Actually, no, it's just the same as it was before war. Like you can buy even Coca-Cola from the U.S. here, by the way, if you want. You can go.
No, it's not from the U.S. It's from Poland or Iran or something.
No, I've got some Texas one.
I got Texas one.
Yeah.
Okay, well then you. I don't care about Coca-Cola that much because I'm actually fine with Dobry Cola. Because Dobry Cola made Coca-Cola, so now Dobry Cola is basically Coca-Cola with a different word on it. It tastes the same to me. I mean, maybe somebody can tell the difference.
We
between
made
Coke
this
and
test in my YouTube channel, by the way. And actually, it tastes different. It's true.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm fine with Dobry.
It's a little bit less concentrated, kids found. But eventually,
compared to American, but even European Coke is different than American Coke.
We figure out that all Cokes all over the world actually are different because we had Chinese one and kids were like, it tastes like Van Dove. It was awful. And they couldn't believe that this original Coke. And then I understood that we made a mistake. We needed to take some like polish or something like that. Anyway, and then she says that complete inaccess of Western websites.
No, that's not true. And in fact, the point here is some Western websites are blocked by Russia, but there are more Western websites that block Russia than the other way around. Many of the websites we can't access is not Russia blocking them. It's the Western websites blocking us.
But we are using VPN. It didn't change again overnight. It was before. It was since 2014. There's nothing like, there are no huge changes in that. Regular internet outages. Sometimes nothing opens at all. Yeah, that happens.
I was on data on my home connection, unless it's a Ukrainian DDoS attack. By the way, I have a 1 gigabit connection. Actually, I think I upgraded to 2 gigabits right now. I think I'm paying a 2 gigabit connection. So I have a 2 gigabit connection. Okay. And I paid for a year and it cost me $90 for the entire year.
That's cheap.
And it's 2 gigs up and 2 gigs down, not this asymmetric stuff many Americans have.
I have 100.
It's rock solid.
I have 100.
Except for the 3 days the Ukrainians were attacking it.
I didn't have issues with my Wi-Fi, but yeah, that's true. I mean, because of drones, we have that. But this periodic alerts about drone attacks, the translation is wrong here. She actually say that they notify us through like speakers.
No, we get SMSs.
And I'm like, no,
and even then it's like,
leaving?
Well, there are in certain, like in Voronezh and, certain Kursk and stuff, they do send out SMS alerts.
They send SMS to areas that might have drones.
So we get those for weather alerts too. If the wind is too high or there's going to be a thunderstorm, we get SMS alerts.
Yeah, the same thing.
But the communism sucks here. Them daring us to inform us there might be a really bad thunderstorm. I mean, oh my gosh, the people of Texas would be happy to have that.
At least we don't have earthquakes like in Kamchatka. Overall feeling of an anxiety and instability. An anxiety. Do you have an anxiety?
That's why we have minion juice.
That's why I was drinking tea.
Minion juice, yeah. Sugar coffee. This is minion juice.
No, actually, true. But I think the rise of an anxiety is happening everywhere because it's like huge shifts in the world are happening right now.
AI,
there's a lot of instability and an anxiety. That's definitely.
Artificial intelligence versus natural stupidity.
That. So I understand it's like probably because it's so much shocking for people because they don't live here. Mm-hmm. So when, if they left like 10 years ago and they come right now, of course, the country is changing. But we live through this. And I think they think like so much people are in anxiety. So they're going to go and, I don't know, throw Putin or something. But in reality, what's happening, because all of these things are happening gradually.
Yeah.
You start noticing
it doesn't matter what you think of Putin. The chances of Putin being overthrown tomorrow or anytime soon it's not there because he has wide support to society. I'm not saying he has complete support, but he has wide support and he has wide control too.
he has, I can agree
But
with
even the control of society, he has
control.
he has general support of society.
Because there's no equivalent. Like right now, people will say, who if not Putin? Because there's no other way. And
People don't realize that even for people who may not support him, that look at what happened in Iraq and all those others, what the alternative might be much worse, not only for Russia, but for the West as well. So
I would say that people, how to call it? People advocate so much against Putin and dreaming that he's going to fall out of the window tomorrow. But I think what will come after Putin is way more scary than people might imagine. I'm not supporting Putin here.
I'm a little more optimistic than you.
I'm so much pessimistic because I see the shifts in politics and where it's going.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that I'm a little more optimistic. I think that I think he's probably going to remain in power for a bit, but of course, nobody lives forever. I'm not saying it happened. I'm just saying he's, in his 70s?
Yeah.
And I think that he cares very much about his legacy, and I think he's already lined up potential successors. That's my opinion.
I don't
he cares
think
about
so.
his legacy.
That's the main problem of autocracies in general, the power transfer shift, like how it's going to happen. And there are going to be huge, I think, tectonic shifts here. And yeah, I'm quite pessimistic about that. Let's say here we're
anxious
different.
about it, maybe.
Maybe anxious. I don't see like good, let's say, in future. I'm not supporting Putin, but I mean, what people are advocating for probably is going to be worse than with
me. I'm agnostic. I try and make, especially because I'm a foreigner here, and I've tried to explain it to people. People always assume my position, but it's not always correct. I try and look at it as if, I'm an alien from another planet. I'm watching, I've come to a planet, I'm watching these two sides, against each other. And I just try and report things as I see them without necessarily taking the side. People just assume I take a side because I live here, but I'm really just trying to report things as I see them.
Yeah, it's hard not to take a side usually, especially when you live here. So what we
Yeah, that's it. I think, but your bear is probably getting hungry because we all ride bears here. So yeah, it's been a while. And I think your bear is tied up in the street. He's probably been fed in a while.
Waiting for me there.
Yeah, what was your bear's name?
Asha. She's at home hungry waiting for me. My bear is at home.
You have your heavy winter jacket on because obviously it's 40 below zero outside. It's August, but it's always snowing here.
Yeah. So cold.
So, well, I would encourage everybody to drop your questions. This is a new experiment of ours. We're going to see how it goes, and we're going to try and do this every week and put some questions down. What we strive to do here is bring you a true, legitimate view of what's actually happening in Russia, not through the Western filter. And just give you, daily life of what Russian people think about the news and what's going on.
Yeah, and we are going to repeat it every week.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss news for you and give you updated information. And yeah, write down questions and comments so we will be able to cover them in our next videos.
So how should we sign off?
Should we go? На здоровье, да? Nobody's saying no.
That's the thing. Everybody was you say na zdrowie. And every time I say it, I know this, everybody Russians never say that. But then I haven't said that in a long time, but everywhere I go, it's especially this last 4 months, everybody's saying na zdrowie. I'm but you never say that. They're no, it's na zdrowie. And I'm but you don't say that either. So it's there's a big debate over whether Russians actually say na zdrowie or if it came from movies or not. I just say zamir.
Zamir, точно.
Which means for peace.
So thank you for watching. Subscribe, like,
follow, share.